Our goal is to show you all those little things that are possible to manage in Italy by yourself, without being assisted by a professional, and obviously without spending money to be assisted by a professional. Sounds a bit strange because our marketing mission as a service provider should be you are dependent on me, you have to pay me, you need me. In reality, I'm giving you this advice and suggestions just for your own benefit. Very often, going around on social networks and reading others posting comments, we see quite particular topics where people rightly publish their doubts and ask for help with respect to those who may have already had this experience. New Italian taxpayers face the new problem and they're aware that it's part of the game. So, new life, new country, new habits. There are also new laws and regulations, new deadlines. And usually people get scared of the Italian bureaucracy in general. They hear horrible stories and frightening experience from others, and also taxes themselves are always somewhat dangerous topic to deal with. Maybe they need someone. I would like to insist on this word, perhaps, because in reality, you cannot be 100% sure if you do need a professional. Taking a look at the problem, it seems too big to fix on its own. So then, what happens when you go to social media? People almost stand out as soon as they see your post. They say, you definitely have to go by, I recommend Mrs. Smith, it's absolutely necessary for you to do this, it's mandatory to hire X, Y, and Z. Are we sure? I don't like this approach. Personally, I like to let it go a bit. Instead of telling people what to do in the meantime, I rather like to understand what they truly need and are looking for. It's like sitting in front of your doctor, and as soon as you start talking and you mention your problem, he immediately prescribes a cure or even tells you, okay, you need to have a surgery. Actually, a professional specialist, what do? To be really sure which treatment they are going to apply, if it's the correct one for your condition, they ask questions. So in the tax field, a person who tells you regardless your problem or where you come from, you have to do so right away, maybe is not a professional as I think it is. We leave a question mark at the end of this sentence, and above all, remember that people often, when they give advice, especially in the tax field, that is far from being a simple, far from being universal for everyone, they rely on solutions that they have applied on their personal problems. But that's not necessarily good for you too. Believe it or not, the main ally at the moment for your fiscal needs is the Italian Revenue Agency, the Agenzia delle Entrate. I know it's weird because in reality almost everyone is scared of them. They run away from the Italian Revenue Agency officers. Getting in touch with them, speaking with them feels like putting a red flag on your head, somehow making a hole in your own boat. The truth is, you don't have to be afraid of the Italian Revenue Agency. This is a state-based mission, obviously, which is dictated by the task of ensuring that all taxes are paid within the terms, and above all, that everyone is able to comply with the ordinary deadlines set by the Italian regulations. But they're also there to provide free information for free. More likely, you will have to slap a meeting, schedule your visit before having an interview. So often, before going to a professional and pay for his advice, consider this option of booking an appointment with the Agenzia delle Entrate. I repeat, free of charge, with a local office of the Italian Revenue Agency, which surely pops up if you type and input your city on Google and the Italian Revenue Agency there. You can try talking to them about it. If you need a lease contract registration, a VAT, partita IVA registration, if you can speak at least some basic Italian, it's going to be fine. So, what can you do on your own? Many things. You can request a tax code, even on someone else's behalf if it delegates you. Of course, this kind of service could be included in other packages if you have paid for with another professional. They tend to include it. Here you have, if you have the willing to try and time to spend, the tax code is a practice that you can solve on your own as well. And this is a question I hear very often. The VAT registration certificate is free of charge if you do it in person to the Italian Revenue Agency. We're not talking about the business setup, okay? This must be clear, but only the certificate in which the 11-digit code is assigned. Free of charge. It is clear that the VAT certificate is much more like giving the keys of a brand new BMW to a kid, and this kid does not have any idea how to drive it. There is a risk that he will hit the wall crashing, but here it is. From this point of view, if you only need the certificate because you're required for your working collaboration or for immigration process, you can get it for free at the Italian tax office. Basically, you just need the tax code, your codice fiscale, a legal address valid in Italy, and the description of your business. And later on, maybe you can go to a paid professional to understand how this certificate of attribution is going to be used and any useful for your business. Another thing you can do yourself is the rental and lease contract. The rental contract, whether you are a landlord or a tenant, can be registered free of charge at the Italian tax office. Don't play with my words when I say that obviously stamp duties, taxes, or whatever are excluded. And usually, just for the records, you can split 50% each with the landlord if you're a tenant. Just take a look at the contract clauses. Another thing that can be done is the tax return itself. In this case, you don't need to go directly to the Italian Revenue Agency, but as you will see later, there is an online process available for the simplest cases to do something like that, like the TurboTax in the United States. It's also possible to deal with small questionnaires that may come from the Italian Revenue Agency. So instead of going and jumping into the panic area, if you receive a letter from the Italian Revenue Agency, you can solely send, for example, documents and further information that are requested directly by email, without any urgency of going through an expensive CPA, saving your money. And finally, most obviously, you can finally pay your taxes on your own. As a reminder for those who still don't know about it, in Italy it's possible to pay your taxes in different ways. Those could be paid through the home banking services if you have an Italian current account, or through the website of the Italian Revenue Agency or the post office with a direct debit to a foreign Italian or to a foreign or an Italian current account. Or last chance, it's possible just to print 3 hard copies of the F-24 form and take it to any post office rather than a bank office. When it comes to doing something myself or yourself, you will always have to find the right balance between investing money and investing time. I have no idea if you have more one on another one, and in front of you, however, there is the possibility of choosing if you have 1 hour, 2 hours, half an hour of time, instead of being taken by the urgency of wasting your time and money with a professional. You can definitely give yourself a chance and see what you can do yourself. Just trust the process. As I said before, you just need to know a little bit of Italian better than my English, if it's possible, and get in touch with the Italian Revenue Agency office. Surely you can save some money. I'm not in a position to tell you how long the wait will take to have an appointment, but it's definitely worth it. And if the person in front of you will be able to solve your problem, that's fine. And if he's not able to, well, consider this opportunity to play with and see if you can. Just an option. They're at your service. Anyone who has had the opportunity to make a call with me and my team knows that we keep repeating, once that you have the opportunity in Italy, please get the SPID, S-P-I-D, the digital key available to all Italian taxpayers that allows to unlock any access to public administration websites, including the Italian Revenue Agency, including the Italian Pension Service. So with this code, with the SPID, S-P-I-D, you can bypass all the paperwork, all the lines that require your physical presence and save a lot of time. The SPID can be requested in person or remotely. I'm not advertising, okay? I don't want you to think we have a sponsor, but we suggest Poste Italiane. Perhaps the easiest one to obtain. Once you get this SPID, You can get a lot of information and carry out many practices yourself, including the pre-made form named 730. Starting a few years ago, probably a couple of years ago, the Italian Revenue Agency has made a sort of pre-made service available for easy tax returns. They offer a declaration already made based on the data coming from various scenarios, from various sources, therefore from medical expenses or house renovation cost, medical cost, that allows you to make a sort of draft of what your tax return looks like. However, we are talking about the 730 model, not the Modello Redditi. Form 730 can be used by Italian pensioners or by those working for and with Italian employers. Conversely, if you have foreign profiles, you cannot use this model. You have to use Modello Redditi. Another thing that you can always do through the SPID is pay and estimate the property tax due on second homes here in Italy. You know that the first home, if you have transferred the residency, is considered exempt. So with the SPID, the municipality gives or should give free access to download the pre-filled F24 form. So instead of going to a professional for the service, log in directly using your mobile phone, for example, download an F24 form and pay it. Remember the deadlines, twice a year, June 15, December 15, only on second homes. So let's go back here to point 3. You can also carry out all the payment due for your taxes. I kindly suggest not to pay any F24 form on behalf of someone else because it could be risky in case of double check by the Italian Revenue Agency. So this is obviously for future reference. It's not my vision for this webinar to stop you from asking someone else for a helping hand, but definitely asking for paid help is something you can do after this try. In the event that in order of developing one of these practices that we have seen, you make a mistake, there is, well, we all make mistakes, there is a chance to solve it yourself and still go into the Italian Revenue Agency, and then if it doesn't work, asking a professional. In case you forget a deadline, you can go to a professional for the calculation of interest of the penalties, and also in this case you may get to the Italian Revenue Agency and ask what happens if I have not paid my taxes for June, if I have not paid my taxes for December, if I haven't filed my taxes by the deadline. You can ask for free. In general, when you're facing a problem that is too big to handle, you don't know where to start because all the resources of free information are in Italian, unfortunately. First, rely to a free source of the Italian Revenue Agency, and then when you see what you can do, how far you can go by yourself, then it makes sense to hire a professional. This is my humble opinion, so please take it as it is. When you have to do something yourself or you want to start doing something yourself, the main rule is to prepare yourself. Preparing means collecting all the best quality information available. Always make sure of the source of this information. Therefore, be aware of articles where they talk about opinions rather than relying on rules and press regulations. Because remember that in case of checks by the Italian Revenue Agency, double checks, audits, the opinions written by someone else don't count at all. Preparing also means taking the right forms to file all the information eventually required by the tax office to get your codice fiscale or partita IVA, for example. How can you move forward if you cannot show your passport or any valid identification document? We are quite specific on this, so be prepared on terms, conditions, details, penalties, what is allowed, what is not allowed, the timing and exemptions provided by the rules, both for tax payments for the tax return, for example, the details make the difference. So the rule number two is pretty obvious, but often as people we get hit, sometimes even a little bit of pride comes up, right? Here you can ask. You have this amazing opportunity. Let's start from the simplest case. When we host live session or live Q&As, we do it specifically for this, so that you can ask It's a right to ask for information. Knowledge has no value if it's not shared. So ask. Let's ask Studio Rigo. Ask all the trustworthy professionals who can offer added value to the community. The invitation is always the same. Before asking someone and pay for this advice, make sure that someone has the skill and experience necessary to give valid advice. Otherwise, you just waste your time and money. You can get in touch with the Italian Revenue Agency, you can get in touch with the Comune, to the town hall, with the Questura, simply by email. And you may have taken, as you may have taken from this webinar, the Italian Revenue Agency has its own email address where you can send your questions to. The third one is a rule, but also a very warm invitation from me and from the whole Studio Rigo team. Learn your rights. Paying taxes as well as filing the tax return is always perceived as an obligation, period. Let's remember that there are both rights and duties, and therefore the rights are to be informed. The rights are that if you need help, the Italian Revenue Agency cannot reject you. So never hold back a doubt. You have the right to check your fiscal position for free, to check your payments in the previous fiscal year, to prevent any audit just by asking them if there are any process running behind the scenes against you, if your tax form has been delivered in the right way. It's your right to have the post office paying your I-24 free of charge, for example, or have the VAT certificate for free if you ask for it. No one, if you meet the requirements, can put you on hold without giving you any answer.